How you doing? Dean Kirk back on the countdown. It is Saturday night, and in just a few minutes, one of my favorite TV shows is going to come on Channel 21 called American Housewife. I've been getting into that show of late, and I want to go ahead and do this video. Go ahead and cut this video. Talk about the song at number 6. A big comeback, an amazing comeback. A culture, a band that was steeped, part of the counterculture of the 60s. Iconic bands, never had a big hit, but don't tell their devout followers that, because this is one of the best loved bands ever. We are talking about one of the most loyal fan base you'll ever come across. The Grateful Dead fans, or the so-called Deadheads. But, let me take it easy. Fantasy Playlist, August 29th, 1987. And Grateful Dead, Touch of Grey, this would be their only top 40 hit, although they had about 5 or 6 charted hits. I'll get into that in just a minute. I'm straining my voice again. Okay, gotta slow down a little bit. The song was written by Robert Hunter, and Jerry Garcia contributed a line or two in this record. Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia, they go way back. They met around 1959 after Jerry Garcia, he did a 9-month stint in the Army. And the Grateful Dead, they started out in 1965, might have been 66. San Francisco, they were the house band of the Ken Kesey's Acid Test. Woo! How counterculture is that? Ken Kesey, Kesey. These were LSD parties. These were people congregating, taking LSD and having various trips into the netherworld. And this was before LSD became illegal. And Grateful Dead, they were the house band. So here we are. Let's move it to 1987. The album is called In the Dark. Hunter started on this song. Robert Hunter started writing this song in 1980. And the Grateful Dead, they first performed this record, got the date down. They performed it in a show in Maryland, September 15th, 1982. There's a line in there. I believe this was a line that was contributed by Jerry Garcia. It was light a candle, curse the glare. And that's actually sort of a wordplay. It was based on a tribute by Adlai Stevenson to Eleanor Roosevelt when Eleanor Roosevelt passed away in 1962. And this was his direct quote. She would rather light a candle than curse the darkness. That phrase was based on that line by Adlai Stevenson. Song about aging gracefully. Jerry Garcia, he was also in a coma in 1986. As a matter of fact, for a while there, it looked like the future of the band looked really grim. Very dim. But he rallied. He pulled through. They started performing again in 1986. And this song became sort of a bit of inspiration for the band, a pick-me-up for the band. And the band, when Robert Hunter wrote this record, the band was sort of at a low point or in a trough of sorts, and just something that would just lift the band up, something that would inspire the band, and they started incorporating this song into their shows. And around 1986, 1987, the Grateful Dead, boy, one of the reasons why they had so many fans, all their shows were never necessarily the same. Now, they covered a lot of songs. They covered about 317 songs, but they also did 184 original tunes. When you have a set list like that, you know, they varied up their shows. They changed the set list. Sometimes they would change the way they would do a song. You'd hear them do one song a particular way one night, and then another night they'll do it in a different way. But boy, they inspired a loyal following. I knew a woman. My goodness, she was a teacher. She was a teacher, graduate student, I believe, teacher at the University of Alabama. She was from up north. Very charismatic, very attractive, charismatic woman. Very bubbly. Talk about science fiction and science fiction. And she was into the Grateful Dead. She'd tell me about their shows and all that. And I'm sure if you probably know somebody who's a Grateful Dead fan. Or if you're a Deadhead watching this video, you can relate. Say, yeah, I can relate to that. Man, I love the Grateful Dead. Well, here's the deal about the Grateful Dead. Let me get to this song. Let me try to finish up on this record first here. I think I've covered all the basics here. Now, the video. Got to talk about the video real quick. The video was shot. It was shot at a raceway. It was in Southern California. Or, well, not Southern California. Well, I'm not sure where it was at in California, but I know it was in California. This is the first they made for MTV, the video. The video was shot after a concert at the Laguna Seca Raceway in California. The date on that was May the 9th, 1987. Now, there was a real audience there. Now, the audience left and they were readmitted, but there's another story that some people in the audience, they were, hey, would you like to stay? Would you like to stay? Because we're going to make a video. And they made a video of them live, and then they did the skeleton puppets and all that. And it was cleverly edited together. The song goes to number 9 on Billboard's Hot 100. Going back to the 60s, I'm going to jump it back to the 60s real quick about the Grateful Dead. They played the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. They played a set between The Who and Jimi Hendrix. That was very formidable. Formidable performers. They performed, but they held up. They played Woodstock in 1969. They played late on Sunday night, early Saturday morning. They played between Canned Heat and Creedence Clearwater Revival. The Grateful Dead just rocking away. But the thing about Grateful Dead is their first 3 albums didn't do that well. They were in the hole with Warner Brothers for $100,000. And going through their roster of charted records, it was $100 that they owed for studio time is what they owed Warner Brothers on. And their first charted record, though, came out in 1970. It was Uncle John's band. Uncle John's band. It went to number 69. Best known there to the casual listeners outside the Grateful Dead fandom, outside that universe, and you get into the world of the casual listeners. One of the songs that are probably best known is Trucking. That went to 64 in 1971. And there was Sugar Magnolia. Remember that one? That was a nice record. Went to number 91 in 1973. And then another song they're probably well known for, particularly among the more casual listeners, Alabama Getaway. Remember that? In 1980, went to number 68 on Billboard's Hot 100. I will read a few. Now, there was a song. I'm going to indulge myself. Just let me indulge myself, even though I'm running out of time. Oh, my God. I'm running overtime. I'm going to miss a little bit of American Housewife, but what the hell? We're rocking and rolling. Eric Burdon, The Animals. Well, Eric Burdon released a song. It was a hit. Don't hear it on the oldie stations anymore. If you request this song on the oldie stations, they'll just laugh at you, or they'll say, "I never heard that record." No, we're not going to play it. But they had a hit. Eric Burdon did. Monterey, back in the fall of '67. It was a tribute to Monterey, the Monterey Pop Festival, and they gave a shout out to the Grateful Dead. Brilliant in this record. Let me read you, and several other artists too. They gave a shout out to there was a line in there that went the birds and the plane, and the birds and the plane did fly. Well, the birds and airplane did fly. Reference to the birds of Jefferson Airplane. And then, oh boy, the brilliant lyrics, the line, I'm going to quote unquote. And then then Eric Burdon goes, "The Who exploded into violent light. Hugh Masekela music was black as night. Grateful Dead blew everybody's mind. Jimi Hendrix, baby, believe me, set the world on fire. Yeah, His Majesty, Prince Jones, smiled as he moved among the crowd." And then they had that nice, funky electric. I can't even explain the guitar that they played. It made the song so much richer. And then it goes, "Young gods smile upon the crowd, smile up the crowd, their music being born of love," quote unquote. Now, let me do the quote. "Religion was being born down in Monterey," quote unquote, on this whole thing. And by the way, Hugh Masekela, he had that instrumental. He had to hit "Grazing in the Grass." 1968, and of course everybody has heard of Jimi Hendrix and the Who. His Majesty Prince Jones, that was a shout out to Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones. He was hanging out at Monterey, Horton Court at Monterey in his psychedelic regalia. I mean, he was like the king, baby. Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones. Oh boy, but let's get back to the Grateful Dead though. I just, well, anyway. Number 6 on this fantasy playlist. Living it up in the 60s and the 80s at the same time. That's what you call reeling in the years. Grateful Dead, Touch of Grey at number 6, up 5 from number 11 on this fantasy playlist of August 29th, 1987. And thanks for watching this video. Dean Kirk, excuse me, Dean Kirk back again. I just reviewed the video a few minutes ago. Video I just made. There was a couple of bloopers that I want to clear up. I'm sure I made some other bloopers in there too, but I know the two that I made. The first one I said that the Grateful Dead, they were in the hole for $100 at the end of the 60s, $100 for the studio time. Let me correct that. That was $100,000 that they were in the hole for studio time. $100 in 1969, that's a good bit of money, but for rock star in 1969, $100 would be chump change. So $100,000, it had to be a big sum like that. So $100,000 they owe to the record company for studio time. And also, I got overheated when I talked about when they performed at Woodstock. They performed, and I got the days mixed up. They performed at Woodstock, I believe it was the second night. It was, I'm talking about the Grateful Dead, late Saturday night into Sunday morning. And also read that Jerry Garcia, he was not happy with their performance. And they were kind of out of it when they were doing Woodstock. And there were millions of people out there, but they couldn't see them. And I guess there were a lot of people on stage or something. But he thought that the group had played out of sync. They were out of rhythm or something, and not very happy with their performance at Woodstock. But I mean, this is an iconic festival, iconic band. So I'm sure a lot of their fans overlooked it if they did play out of time. And those are the only corrections I just want to make. Talking about Grateful Dead, Touch of Grey. Thank you very much for watching this portion of the video. Take care.